Damn it. Sasha Chen slammed her palm against the communications array as her broadcast feed cut out for the third time. Outside the viewport of her rickety news vessel, plasma storms painted electric blue streaks across the darkness. Beautiful and deadly. She was hovering dangerously close to the contested Kuiper Mining Corporation's largest asteroid operation, recording footage the old-fashioned way, while her alien colleagues filed reports safely from their luxury cruisers via neural uplinks. Deadline to Dispatch Central. Do you copy? Static hissed back at her. Perfect. Just perfect. Sasha checked her radiation shields, holding steady, if groaning in protest. Human technology wasn't pretty, but it was sturdy. The ship itself, affectionately named Deadline, was a patchwork of salvaged parts from 5 different species technologies. Her colleagues called it a flying hazard. She called it reliable. Her boss, Editor-in-Chief Sarlex, a 9-foot-tall cephalopod whose skin could display more emotions than most species could name, had reluctantly assigned her to this story because none of the other Nebula Dispatch reporters would risk their precious neural implants near such intense plasma interference. Manual recalibration engaged, chirped the ship's computer as Sasha realigned the communications dish. As the system rebooted, a strange pattern flickered across her frequency scanner, a signal unlike anything in the dispatch's extensive database. She frowned, isolating the frequency. It wasn't random noise or stellar interference. It pulsed with mathematical precision. She counted the intervals. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. Prime numbers, she muttered, recording the sequence. 3 hours later, Sasha docked at the massive orbital newsroom hub of Nebula Dispatch. The central atrium buzzed with reporters from 17 different species, most connected directly to the station's information networks through neural interfaces. Hovering translation drones created a constant background hum as they facilitated communication between beings who evolved in environments too different to share common language structures. Chen. My office. Sarlex's voice boomed across the newsroom, his skin flashing rapid patterns of orange and yellow. Irritation mixed with curiosity. In the privacy of his aquatic office chamber, Sarlex's tentacles manipulated holographic data displays while he floated in a suspension tank. Your report on the mining dispute was adequate, he admitted grudgingly, skin rippling with reluctant approval. But this signal you detected has triggered security protocols. The Galactic Council has already classified it as routine stellar interference. It's not interference, Sasha insisted. It's a deliberate pattern using human mathematical sequences. Someone is sending a message specifically designed for humans to notice. Sarlex's chromatophores shifted to deep purple, his species' expression of thoughtfulness. Your species still thinks with meat, he said, skin rippling in what Sasha had learned was the cephalopod equivalent of a backhanded compliment. Sometimes meat thinking sees patterns our superior networks cannot. I want to investigate, Sasha said, straightening her spine. The Council has already. Since when does Nebula Dispatch take the Council's word as the final answer? She challenged. A brief flash of respect colored Sarlex's skin before he composed himself. Fine. Follow your human intuition. Your primitive instincts occasionally yield results our algorithms miss. As Sasha left his office, she caught the whispers from her colleagues. Another wild chase for the human. How much leave should we wager she'll need after this failure? 10 credits says she's reassigned to obituary compilation by next cycle. Ignoring them, Sasha returned to her cramped workstation and began analyzing the signal more deeply. Within the mathematical sequence, she discovered embedded coordinates disguised as variations in the transmission's amplitude. And something else. A fragment of an ancient Earth language no alien translation system would recognize. The message was clear. Someone was calling for help, and they wanted only humans to hear them. You're going, Waiki-Ari? The hangar technician, a silicon-based lifeform named Gurk, vibrated with alarm, his crystalline appendages tinkling musically as they trembled. His maintenance visor flashed urgent warning symbols as Sasha plotted coordinates into the Deadline's navigation system. "The Vergesi system," Sasha replied, continuing her pre-flight checks. "That's a dead zone." Kirk's translation module pitched higher. "Uninhabitable after the supernova event 3 centuries ago. Nothing but lethal radiation. Your ship's registry will be automatically flagged for psychiatric evaluation upon return." Sasha patted the scuffed hull of her vessel. "Deadline's radiation shields were built using technology humans developed during our nuclear age. Not pretty, but effective. Effective for standard cosmic radiation, not supernova remnants." Kirk's silicon structure now vibrated at a frequency that made Sasha's teeth ache. "No one goes to Vergesi." No one. That was precisely why Sasha had to go. The mysterious signal's coordinates pointed directly to the heart of a system officially designated as permanently quarantined. 12 hours later, automated warning buoys screamed at her to turn back as the deadline approached the outer boundary of the Vergesi system. Official navigation charts showed nothing but a lethal radiation zone extending for billions of kilometers. "Shields holding at 72%, reported the ship's computer as Sasha pushed deeper into the supposedly uninhabitable system, detecting anomalous energy signatures ahead. The radiation levels climbed steadily, but as Sasha followed the signal's trail, her communication systems captured fragments of transmissions that no official channel acknowledged. Sector 7 requires immediate evacuation. Medical supplies critically low in habitat rings 3 and 4. Council patrols increasing in frequency." Following these digital breadcrumbs, Sasha navigated through a debris field that showed signs of deliberate placement. Not random stellar material, but carefully positioned fragments creating a shield against standard scanning technology. Beyond this camouflage barrier, she discovered an engineering marvel. A sprawling habitat ingeniously constructed inside hollowed-out asteroids, connected by transport tubes that pulsed with emergency lighting. The largest asteroid had been transformed into a self-contained ecosystem, its spin providing artificial gravity. Approaching a concealed docking port, Sasha broadcast on the frequency from the original signal. "This is Sasha Chen of the Nebula Dispatch, responding to your transmission." After a tense silence, airlock indicators cycled to green. Inside, a reception committee waited, armed but hesitant. Their leader, a battle-scarred Procyon named Vila, stepped forward. Her iridescent fur was patchy with stress shedding, and her natural bioluminescent markings flickered with exhaustion. "A journalist. We expected a diplomatic vessel," Vila said, mandibles clicking with disappointment. "The Great Council truly ignores us if they send only media." "The Council classified your signal as routine stellar interference," Sasha explained. "I'm here independently." Vila's compound eyes dimmed. "Of course they did. They've been erasing our existence for 3 years." She led Sasha through cramped corridors to a central chamber where over 30 refugees from various species huddled around limited life support systems. Children from 3 different taxonomic families played together in a corner, their physiological differences no barrier to shared games. "Welcome to what remains of New Proxima Colony," Vila said bitterly. 32,417 survivors. All that's left after the Taurian regime's peacekeeping operation. A war the Galactic Council declared peacefully resolved with all displaced persons successfully relocated. She activated a holographic projector. "We've been broadcasting evidence for years." The footage made Sasha's stomach turn. Mass executions, forced labor camps, entire settlements being systematically vaporized, all bearing the unmistakable insignia of the Taurian regime, one of the Galactic Council's founding members. As Sasha downloaded the evidence to her secure drives, proximity alarms shrieked through the habitat. A sleek black ship bearing no identification, but using official Council security protocols, decelerated rapidly into orbit around the asteroid cluster. "They found us," Vila whispered as the habitat's outer defensive arrays began to crumble under precision strikes. "We need to evacuate. Now." Vila's voice cut through the blaring alarms as the habitat shuddered under another precision strike. Sasha made a split-second decision. "My ship can carry 20, maybe 30 if we crowd the cargo bay." "We have children," Vila said, her compound eyes reflecting emergency lighting. 27 of our most vulnerable. The rest of us will disperse to the secondary habitats. Within minutes, Sasha's cargo bay was packed with refugees, including 3 injured children whose exoskeletons hadn't fully hardened yet. The deadline barely escaped as the Council ship methodically destroyed the habitat's external communications array. 3 days later, she docked at Nebula Dispatch headquarters on Proxima Station, expecting to break the biggest story of her career. Instead, security officers in dispatch uniforms flanked the airlock. "Journalist Chen, report to disciplinary immediately," ordered the lead officer, a Deltan whose translucent skin revealed pulsing organs rearranging themselves with stress. In a sterile conference room, she faced a grim tribunal. Managing Director Pelxer, a methane breather whose translucent tentacles twitched with corporate anxiety. 2 senior editors, and a representative from station security, whose uniform bore subtle council insignia. "You violated 14 interstellar protocols." Pelxer's voice boomed through his environmental suit speakers. "This story is radioactive, politically and literally. The Council has already issued a statement calling your discovery a terrorist encampment harboring biological weapons." "That's absurd," Sasha protested, connecting her data drive to the room's central display. "I have evidence." The screen flickered to life, showing the refugee habitat, but as she watched in horror, the files corrupted in real time, pixels scrambling into unrecognizable patterns. "System security measures," explained the Council representative with practiced regret. "Potentially compromised data is automatically sanitized. Your press credentials are suspended pending investigation," Pelxer announced. "The refugees will be processed according to Council protocols." "Processed?" Sasha's voice rose. "You mean disappeared?" Security escorted her from the room. Her access chip, downgraded to resident civilian, barely opened the door to her cramped quarters where the refugees huddled in fear. "They'll make us disappear again," whispered Vila, clutching her youngest child, "just like they did to the others." Desperation birthed inspiration. Earth's pre-space history had been filled with whistleblowers who faced similar challenges. Powerful interests controlling official channels. Using black market components purchased with her last credits from a sympathetic technician, Sasha worked through the night to build a deadman switch system that would outlast any attempt on her life. She encrypted the evidence using a method inspired by ancient newspapers' dead drop systems, fracturing the data into innocuous-looking packets distributed across 17 different commercial and entertainment networks. Each fragment appeared as normal system noise, but together they formed a complete record, set to automatically reassemble and publish if she didn't enter a changing passcode every 24 hours. As she finished, her terminal pinged with an encrypted message bearing no sender ID. It contained only system coordinates and a timestamp. 23 o'clock, Maintenance Level 7, Junction C. At the appointed time, Sasha slipped through service corridors to find a crystalline being waiting in the shadows. Zoth's multifaceted body gleamed faintly, 3 crystal formations extending from its central core like frozen lightning. "You are the human journalist." Kazoth's voice resonated directly in Sasha's mind. "The crystal hive mind's method of private communication. I am chief archivist for demographic statistic validation. Why contact me?" Sasha asked cautiously. "I require a partnership." Kazoth's crystalline body chimed softly. "For 27 years, 3 months, and 16 days, I have documented statistical anomalies in refugee population reports." Zoth projected data streams into the air, census figures, resource allocations, genetic diversity indices. Projected population figures don't match genetic diversity metrics. Entire demographic groups vanish without explanation. The mathematical probabilities of such discrepancies occurring naturally are infinitesimal. "You've been tracking disappearances," Sasha realized. "I sought official investigation through 14 proper channels. Each inquiry was reclassified as data corruption. Yesterday, 3 of my crystal nodes were purged from the central archives without explanation. Kizov's remaining facets dimmed with what Sasha recognized as fear. I believe we are both targets of forces willing to kill to maintain secrecy. Your human capacity for irrational risk-taking, combined with my access to historical records, may be our only defense, and the only hope for uncovering a pattern of erasure spanning centuries. Sasha barely escaped an accidental pressure failure in her quarters that would have killed her and the refugees had they not moved to an abandoned storage bay hours earlier. With no time left and her credentials officially revoked, she activated her whistleblower algorithm, releasing the evidence into the galactic networks. For 48 glorious hours, it seemed like the biggest journalistic expose in galactic history. Footage of atrocities, testimony from survivors, and statistical proof of massive population adjustments spread across every information channel. Citizen protests erupted on 17 worlds. 3 council members demanded emergency sessions. Nebula Dispatch's viewership reached unprecedented levels as Sasha's byline appeared on every feed. Then the counterattack began. Something's wrong. Kizov's crystalline form vibrated with alarm as they monitored public reaction from their hideout. The network response patterns are shifting. Viewers across thousands of worlds suddenly began experiencing doubt, confusion, even physical revulsion when accessing Sasha's reports. Social media feeds filled with commenters who had passionately supported the expose just hours before, now claiming they couldn't quite remember what had disturbed them, only that the content felt wrong or manipulative. Nebula Dispatch's ratings plummeted as subscribers canceled en masse. Veteran reporters who'd initially praised Sasha's courage now broadcast investigative pieces, debunking her story, their eyes glazed with the distinctive neural shimmer of direct mind-to-system interfaces. "It's a Class 7 memetic virus," explained Kizov, whose remaining crystal fragments pulsed with alarm. "It exploits the standardized neural interfaces all modern species use for information processing. Like a computer virus, but for brains." Sasha asked, watching in horror as footage showed crowds burning effigies of her on 3 different planets. Precisely. The Council is weaponizing information itself. Yet something odd happened as hour after hour passed. While Sasha watched colleagues and even friends turn against her, she remained strangely unaffected. When Kizok showed her clips specifically designed to trigger doubt, she felt nothing. Fascinating. Kizov's crystals resonated with a rare harmonic indicating surprise. Your primitive human brain, maligned for generations as inefficient, processes information through individual neural pathways that vary from person to person. The standardization that made other species vulnerable simply doesn't exist in humans. Our inefficiency is our immunity, Sasha realized, a plan forming. And maybe our weapon. Drawing from Earth's long history of propaganda analysis, from wartime disinformation to early internet conspiracy campaigns, Sasha created a crude but effective filter algorithm. The technique was laughably primitive by galactic standards. It identified suspicious content not through sophisticated pattern recognition, but by checking for subtle linguistic markers humans had used to detect manipulation for centuries. "It will never work," Kizov objected as Sasha prepared to broadcast her counter-memetic defense through emergency channels originally designed for space radiation warnings. These are channels most species' neural filters automatically accept as trustworthy, but the approach is too simplistic. "Sometimes simple is better," Sasha insisted, launching the broadcast. "Complex systems have complex vulnerabilities." As her counter-memetic defense spread, encrypted messages trickled in from journalists and officials across dozens of systems who had maintained enough independent thinking to recognize the manipulation. An underground resistance began forming, mostly from species with less standardized neural structures or individuals who, through accident or design, had limited their interface connectivity. Vila emerged from hiding, her compound eyes gleaming with renewed hope. "Your filter is working. 3 of my contacts have broken through the memetic control." Before Sasha could celebrate, the station's environmental alarms blared. The security scanners throughout Proxima Station suddenly shifted to biothreat protocols, specifically calibrated to detect human biological signatures. "Attention all personnel," announced the station's AI in soothing tones. "A Level 1 human origin biological contamination has been detected. All humans must report to quarantine immediately. Non-compliance will result in station-wide decontamination procedures." Sasha's species had just been reclassified as a disease. "We have to leave now," Sasha whispered as security drones swept through the lower levels of Proxima Station. The refugees had been smuggled onto a sympathetic trader's vessel hours earlier, but Sasha, Kazoth, and Vila remained trapped in Maintenance Shaft 37C as decontamination protocols initiated around them. Through the ventilation grating, they watched in horror as hazmat-suited security personnel stunned and dragged away 2 human diplomatic aides who hadn't reached quarantine fast enough. "There's a pattern to the disappearances." Kazoth's message vibrated directly into Sasha's mind as they huddled in darkness. "My statistical analysis points to a specific location. Archive Station Omega. Official status: decommissioned after radiation damage. Actual status: operational but classified." "How do we get there when every scanner in the galaxy is looking for human biosignatures?" Sasha asked. Vila's compound eyes gleamed in the darkness. "I have an idea." 12 hours later, security logged the departure of a waste management vessel piloted by a Protean sanitation worker. Deep in its hold, surrounded by biological waste that masked her human signature, Sasha lay curled in a protective cocoon, while Kazoth's crystalline form nestled nearby, appearing as nothing more than mineral refuse on scanners. The coordinates led to the outer reaches of a dying star system dominated by a pulsing neutron star, its intense radiation creating a natural barrier against casual visitors and overwhelming most scanning technologies. "Perfect camouflage," Sasha muttered as she navigated the waste ship through carefully arranged debris fields that showed clear signs of deliberate placement. Her vessel's antiquated radiation shielding, considered laughably obsolete by modern standards, once again proved invaluable as she approached a massive structure that appeared on scanners as nothing more than an asteroid cluster. Inside, emergency lighting flickered to life after centuries of disuse as Sasha's presence triggered dormant systems. The station's eye, isolated from galactic networks for over 300 years, recognized no authority beyond its original programming. Archive access granted to authorized researcher, intoned a disembodied voice. Biometric pattern logged. Human variant. Authorized species. Authorized species. Sasha whispered in confusion. Kazoth extended a crystal tendril toward a wall panel, interfacing directly with the ancient system. This facility predates modern council structure. Humans were among the original 17 species granted archive access. What they discovered sent ice through Sasha's veins. Meticulously organized records documented the processing of entire civilizations, species that officially withdrew from galactic affairs or suffered environmental collapse. The Aldebarans supposedly ascended to a higher plane of existence, were actually exterminated after discovering the Council's secret biological weapons program. The Tausetians officially returned to their ancestral ocean worlds, were sterilized through engineered viruses after their mathematical prodigies identified anomalies in resource allocation algorithms. "This can't be real," Sasha whispered, her voice echoing in the cavernous archive chamber. "The probability of fabrication is infinitesimal." Kazoth's crystals vibrated with distress. "These extinction events correlate perfectly with the statistical anomalies I've documented." Then they found the most disturbing file of all, labeled Sol System Demographic Adjustment Initiative. Detailed plans outlined the subtle destabilization of human society, engineered conflicts, and eventual population reduction scheduled to begin within 5 years. The justification chilled Sasha to her core. Species demonstrates dangerous resistance to neural standardization and mimetic control. Individual cognitive variance prevents reliable social engineering. Recommend processing while population remains manageable. As she downloaded the extinction archives to a secure crystal matrix K'Zoth provided, the station's ancient systems suddenly triggered defensive protocols. Warning klaxons blared as screens throughout the facility flashed red. Unauthorized data access detected. Containment procedures initiated. The massive archives, humanity's only proof of the conspiracy, began systematically purging their records as backup systems flooded with radiation. Sasha had minutes to save thousands of years of evidence before it was erased forever. "We can't lose this," she told K'Zoth desperately. "It's the only proof. There is another option." K'Zoth's crystals pulsed. "I can store the data within my crystalline structure, but the radiation levels required to transfer this volume of information would be fatal to organic tissue." "You mean I need to leave you here?" "No." K'Zoth's voice resonated with grim determination. "I mean you need to take shelter while I absorb the archives. The radiation will alter my crystalline matrix permanently. I may not survive with consciousness intact." The journey back to civilized space was a nightmare of malfunctioning systems and desperate evasion. K'Zoth's once brilliant crystalline structure now pulsed with an ominous dull glow, the extinction archives encoded within its altered molecular structure. 3 of its minor facets had already shattered from the strain. "Too much data." K'Zoth's weakened voice whispered directly into Sasha's consciousness. "My matrix was never designed to contain such information density." Their stolen waste transport vessel limped toward the Cygnus transfer point, its engines straining after a near miss with an unmarked patrol ship. The archive data, nearly a petabyte of extinction records, was too massive to transmit through any conventional channel, and Sasha knew the Council's mimetic viruses would corrupt it anyway. "Can you hold on until we reach somewhere safe?" Sasha asked, manually rerouting power to maintain their failing life support. "Define safe," K'Zoth replied, crystal facets flickering erratically. They had centuries to perfect information control. All standard communication channels are compromised. Hiding in an abandoned mining outpost on the edge of the Cygnus Arm, Sasha watched refugees from 3 different species struggling to communicate without their translator implants. The scene triggered an epiphany. Unlike every other advanced species with their standardized neural interfaces and communication protocols, humans had developed thousands of different languages, codes, and cultural signals throughout their history. "We need to go old school," she told K'Zoth. "Really old school." Using the outpost emergency transmitter, Sasha activated her last remaining credential, her Earth citizenship priority code, to send a heavily encrypted message to the human diplomatic corps. Not to ambassadors or high officials who would be closely monitored, but to cultural attaches, academic researchers, and trade representatives scattered across the galaxy. People whose positions seemed insignificant, whose appointments to backwater posts appeared to be diplomatic afterthoughts. The Council's founders made a critical error, Sasha explained to K'Zoth as they worked. They dismissed our cultural diversity as inefficiency, our tendency to create thousands of languages instead of one, our resistance to standardization, our attachment to outdated methods. They never bothered to monitor what they considered primitive. Using a patchwork of Earth historical references, Navajo code talkers, Renaissance musical notation, steganography techniques embedding data in cultural artifacts, Sasha created a communication network that bypassed all standard protocols. Fragments of the archive data began moving through channels the Council's monitoring systems could never recognize. Human art exhibitions where canvas pigment densities carried encoded data. Trade manifests with shipping codes that doubled as encryption keys. Even ancient Earthboard games played at diplomatic functions where peace positions transmitted coordinates. As responses trickled in, confirming receipt of data fragments, K'Zoth's condition deteriorated. "The data is corrupting my core matrix, the crystalline being admitted. I estimate 17 hours before critical failure." "We need to get you to Earth," Sasha decided. "Our medical technology might not be as advanced, but it's different enough to help." "Earth is too obvious a destination," K'Zoth warned. They'll be watching all approaching vessels. A message flashed on Sasha's emergency transmitter, a response using a code based on 20th century baseball statistics, decipherable only to a human raised with knowledge of Earth sports history. Diplomatic vessel en route. Coordinates follow. Authentication. Red Sox, 2004. Someone high up got our message, Sasha explained to Kazov. That authentication code references a famous Earth sports victory against impossible odds. Within hours, a sleek diplomatic courier arrived, bearing Earth insignia and piloted by a stern-faced woman who introduced herself only as Commander Chen, Earth Intelligence. As they prepared to board, proximity alarms blared. On the scanner, 5 unmarked vessels converged on their position, weapons systems active. Too late, Commander Chen stated flatly, sealing the airlock. The rendezvous was compromised. We need to reach Earth, Sasha insisted, supporting Kazov's weakening form. The fate of our entire species depends on it. Not just your species. Kazov's crystals flashed with renewed urgency. All species targeted for demographic adjustment. My analysis indicates the timeline has accelerated. We have weeks, not years. The annual Grand Assembly was the only time all 17 species representatives gathered physically in the massive council chambers on Galactic Central. Dozens of diplomatic vessels converged on the gleaming orbital complex, each bristling with security measures and political posturing. This year's headline agenda item: a proposed human integration initiative, ostensibly designed to bring Earth fully into the galactic community, but which Sasha now knew was the first stage of the extinction protocol. Everyone in position. Commander Chen's voice crackled through the antiquated radio earpiece hidden behind Sasha's hair. Unlike modern neural communicators, the simple radio technology was immune to the Council's monitoring systems, considered too primitive to bother scanning for. Ready, Sasha confirmed, adjusting her press badge. Using her suspended but never revoked Nebula Dispatch credentials, she'd gained access to the press gallery overlooking the council floor. Nearby, Kazov's weakened crystalline form was disguised as an ornamental decoration on a Centaurian journalist's ceremonial headpiece. After their narrow escape from the council ships, Commander Chen had revealed herself as Admiral Helena Chen, Sasha's mother and secret liaison to Earth's defense forces. The family connection had been kept hidden for years to protect both their careers. The Council explicitly requested human delegates attend in person rather than via holo-presence. Admiral Chen explained from her position among the Earth delegation below. Now we know why. The atmosphere crackled with tension as species representatives arrived, many showing subtle signs of mural tampering, vacant expressions that occasionally sharpened, then dulled again as control reasserted. In the press gallery, Sasha reunited with Sarlacc, whose tentacles now bore distinctive gray patches of neural burnout, signs of someone who fought the mimetic viruses and suffered damage in the process. I believed you too late, the editor admitted, skin flashing patterns of regret. But my species recovers from neural damage better than most. I've been helping your human network where I can. As the assembly began, Supreme Counselor Drax of the Taurian hegemony rose to present the Human Integration Initiative. The massive bovine-descended being's augmented voice boomed through the chamber. For too long, our human friends have remained at the periphery of galactic society. Drax intoned with practiced benevolence. Their unique biological characteristics have delayed full integration with our shared neural frameworks. Today, we rectify this unfortunate delay with a comprehensive program to bring humanity fully into our collective consciousness. On Sasha's signal, previously briefed human delegates and their trusted allies from other species simultaneously activated devices disguised as ceremonial jewelry. Quantum field disruptors based on early human radio jamming technology, considered too primitive to watch for, but devastatingly effective against the Council's sophisticated neural control systems. Chaos erupted as delegates suddenly found themselves thinking clearly for the first time in generations. Voices rose in confusion, then anger, as the subtle neural fog that had guided council proceedings for centuries abruptly vanished. "What's happening?" Drax roared, frantically activating emergency protocols that should have instantly pacified the crowd through their neural implants. His bovine features contorted in rage as nothing happened. The humans are blocking the signal. At this crucial moment, Sasha gave the final command. Every communication device in the chamber, from official translation systems to personal recorders, simultaneously received the complete archive data, transmitted through the network of human cultural attaches who had positioned themselves throughout the facility. On the central display meant for Drax's presentation, footage began playing. The systematic extinction of species after species, the refugee massacre, the plans for Earth's processing. All broadcast lived through emergency override channels to trillions of viewers across the galaxy. "This is Sasha Chen," she announced, stepping from the press gallery onto the main floor where no journalist had stood before. Senior correspondent for the Nebula Dispatch, reporting on the greatest crime in galactic history. Security forces converged from all entrances, but found themselves blocked by representatives from a dozen species who formed a protective circle around her. The council chamber had become a battleground not of weapons, but of information suddenly flowing freely for the first time in centuries. The Galactic Civil Authority calendar now marked 2 years since Revelation Day. In her glass-walled office atop the rebuilt Nebula Dispatch Tower, Editor-in-Chief Sasha Chen surveyed the transformed skyline of Galactic Central. The monolithic council headquarters had been replaced by the more transparent architecture of the new Galactic Assembly. 17 spires of varying designs, each representing a member species' aesthetic values while forming a harmonious whole. "The Protean refugee resettlement is proceeding ahead of schedule," reported Kizov, now sporting a specially designed exoskeleton that housed its remaining crystal fragments alongside new growths, a hybrid existence reflecting the changes throughout society. The crystalline being still struggled with data retrieval at times, its matrix permanently altered by carrying the extinction archives, but its consciousness had surprisingly evolved rather than diminished. And the genetic restoration program for the Aldebarans has successfully reintroduced viable populations on 3 worlds. Kizoth continued, crystal facets pulsing with subtle pride. Sasha nodded, reviewing headlines from across 17 worlds on her view screen, each displaying the distinctive truth-certified verification marker her organization had pioneered. A system immune to tampering, because it relied on no single technology or species oversight. The upheaval following the Council's collapse had not been without violence. The Taurian hegemony and their closest allies had fought desperately to maintain control, resulting in brief but intense conflicts across 12 systems. But the alliance of newly awakened species had prevailed, united by the shared horror of discovering how close many had come to extinction. The Extinction Archives, now public and housed in memorial centers across the galaxy, had enabled the resurrection of species once thought lost forever. Preserved genetic samples, combined with recovered cultural records, were gradually rebuilding civilizations erased from history. "You have a visitor," announced the Office Eye, a system purposely designed with limited capabilities and no connection to central networks, another lesson learned from Earth's cautious approach to technology. Vila entered, her compound eyes now enhanced with cybernetic elements that replaced those damaged during the conflict. As the Assembly's first Minister of Reconciliation, she had overseen the complex process of healing among species who discovered they had been manipulated against each other for centuries. "I brought someone who wanted to meet you," Vila said, ushering in a small Protean child. One of the refugees Sasha had evacuated 2 years earlier. Now the young one served as a junior ambassador in the new interspecies education program. After they departed, Sasha turned her attention to a small device on her desk, emitting a soft pulsing glow. Admiral Chen, now Earth's representative to the Assembly Security Council, had delivered it personally that morning. "Our deep space arrays detected this signal yesterday," her mother had explained. "It's coming from beyond the galactic barrier. and it's responding specifically to our transmissions about the new assembly. The signal resolved into a mathematical sequence, unmistakably artificial, unmistakably intelligent, but unlike any communication protocol known to the 17 species. And 18th intelligence. Kazoth's crystals vibrated with excitement. Or something else entirely, Sasha replied, already reaching for her battered travel bag. A journalist's instincts never truly fade. Either way, it's a story that needs telling. As she prepared for what might be her greatest expedition yet, Sasha glanced at the wall where a simple framed article hung, her very first Nebula Dispatch piece, written when humans were still novelties barely tolerated in galactic society. The headline read, "Human Perspective: Why Inefficiency Matters." Below it sat a newer edition, a plaque bearing the motto now emblazoned on every Nebula Dispatch transmission: "Truth cannot be standardized." Sasha summoned her team, a diverse collection of journalists from 12 species, each selected not for their conformity, but for their unique perspectives. "Dispatch team," she announced as they gathered in the bustling newsroom, the excitement of a breaking story energizing the air. "We have a new signal from the edge of known space. And this time, we're all going to cover it together." As they prepared for departure, Sasha's old ship, the Deadline, now refitted but still bearing its battle scars as a reminder, waited in the docking bay, ready for one more journey to the edges of the sci-fi universe.